Hi, everybody. It is Mike, the Heal Your Gut Guy, and today we have a special guest. Her name is Lishui, and yeah, so welcome. She discovered GNM back in 2002. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
20 years and 4 months or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So how did you stumble upon German New Medicine? Like what type of symptoms were you trying to get under control?
I had been suffering a lot of anxiety problems. It
Mm-hmm.
was just, I didn't know it was anxiety. I just felt like something awful was going to happen. And I was really
Mm-hmm.
stressed out in my life. I had a very abusive employer.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, right around the same time, I had an issue with my mother. She left the country to marry someone in another country, and the house that was always the home that I could go home to, she put it for sale. Now, it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't the putting it for sale that got me in trouble. She called me up. She said, "I need you to get your stuff out of my closet right now because I can't sell the house with your crap in my closet." And I thought, but I'm across the country at this new job with this really mean new boss.
Oh.
There's no way for me to go get my stuff. And why are you doing this? And she said, "I don't care. Just get it out." And that was the DHS.
That was the conflict shock, the
Yeah. And
DHS.
it
Yeah.
wasn't just it. So it was the house, but mom. And I'd been kind of just not dealing with any of it.
Mm-hmm.
But in that moment, it became real. She's gone. The house is gone. Home is gone. And if I ever need to return to my home safe base,
Mm-hmm.
it's not there anymore.
Wow.
And
Wow.
suddenly everything became very serious. Every problem
Mm-hmm.
was really scary. And so I got all these hypochondriac things going on, and I was going into the doctor. Oh, I got my back aches. I heard the kidneys are back there. I think I have kidney problems. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
finally I clued in. I was stressed. I hated my job. My employer was really, really abusive. Like, send me
Mm-hmm.
off on a project and I'd be 3/4 of the way there and say, "Hey, you went the wrong place." And I'd be like, "I'm sure you told me to go here." And she'd yell at me and not
Mm-hmm.
pay me. It was awful.
Wow. Oh,
And
wow.
she was a psycho, right? And
Yeah.
when I yeah, and then at the same time, on my mother child side, so that was a partner conflict, but and on my mother child side, it was like, get out of my life. I'm done
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah.
I've found somebody to replace you. Just fuck off. And it was I was in
So
a real pickle. And
so what special programs were getting turned on with this? Because you're in the conflict active phase, so usually there isn't conflict active symptoms, but so what was kind of going on
it's
there?
all psychological. Yeah. So I had major anxiety, which I didn't know was anxiety. I actually
Yeah.
felt like something bad's going to happen. But I
Yeah.
had the frontal fear constellation.
Okay. Okay.
I was having heart palpitation feelings, and I didn't know what that was. And sometimes it would race, and sometimes it would go really slow. But it was a
Mm-hmm.
horrible feeling of doom. Now, the myocardial program, it goes into the epicrisis within 48 hours of solving the conflict.
Uh-huh.
So I was getting overwhelmed and then solving the conflict when the weekend would come, or
Yeah.
and this was happening often. But there was a sense of doom that went with that, right?
Yeah.
And then there was the I was having a big identity conflict. I was
Oh,
kicked out of my
wow.
home. My home was gone. My
Yeah.
tribe was gone because my mother was my connection to my family.
Yeah.
And it was like it's like the queen bee's gone from the hive, and so you can go back to where the hive was, but it's not the
Yeah.
same. Um, and then I was also having a lot of anger and fear of my employer,
Mm-hmm.
and that set me up for mythomania. So
Oh.
I had the identity plus the territorial fear. What's she going to do next?
Mm-hmm.
What she's coming? This woman would literally corner me out in the back of the work site
Mm-hmm.
and do this. And she was tall, and she would just find random things, and it would somehow be my fault. And I was like, oh, because I felt
Mm-hmm.
like I have to have this job or I'm gonna be
Yeah.
homeless. And
Yeah.
um I was a
Especially
mess.
with the home being taken away, like it amplified the conflict.
Yeah. And I didn't understand any of this because intellectually it was like, just go get another job.
Yeah.
Just, you know, you can go wherever you want. Just go, yeah, okay,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you have to pound the pavement or something.
Mm-hmm.
So the horrible feelings that I had emotionally and sometimes physically. For example, I
Mm-hmm.
had back pain. I had to this nasty boss suddenly randomly changed my work location from the office, which was a 3-minute drive away, to the other side of Vancouver.
Oh God.
And they were doing work on the Second Narrows Bridge, so it was a traffic jam. So it was like an hour and a half drive each way
Wow.
every day, and it was
Wow.
awful. And my car was always on the verge of falling apart, but I had never had enough money to fix it or
Mm-hmm.
time. And I've just and I'd be stuck in traffic, low on gas, car might fall apart, late
Mm-hmm.
for work, in trouble. And I
Mm-hmm.
had back pain from my waist with the quadratus lumbarum at the
Mm-hmm.
base, and then all the way down, all the way. And you
Mm-hmm.
could see it on my CAT scan. You
Oh,
could
you did your
Yeah,
okay.
you could see a
Yeah.
little years later, but they were scars because it relapsed so many times.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could see lower back, hip, knee, ankle, foot, all these little
Wow.
tiny
Just
white
just
circles.
like right. Yeah. Wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's
Uh,
amazing.
and well, one day I just, oh, what else did I have? I had burning skin. I thought I had food sensitivities.
Oh, really? So
Yeah.
so you had a separation
Yeah. No
conflict
idea that
going
that's what
on.
I had though.
Yeah. Yeah.
To me, I was allergic to stuff. I was just getting sicker. There was something wrong. It must have been something about I must have got
Mm-hmm.
poisoned. There must be an earthquake coming because I was in
Mm-hmm.
BC. Like I was trying to find external reasons
Yeah.
for all of this.
Yeah.
And then finally I realized, boom, I'm stressed out. It's
Yeah.
stress. I'm going
Yeah.
to go to the doctor and I'm going to get a stress leave from this horrible job. I'm going to collect unemployment insurance and I'm going to use that to pack up, move back home. And I think I'm going to get a job in a greenhouse. Just something so relaxing and nice.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to
Uh-huh.
rebuild my life. Like this is just not working out and I'm going to let it go. And so I got my solution. And I
Mm-hmm.
went to the doctor and he said, no, we don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
We don't do stress leave anymore. Bullshit. Lie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I got something really important I need to tell you about, he said. We're going to do the breast cancer gene test.
Mm.
And I thought he was telling me I had cancer. I thought that all these symptoms, I was like, I got this and I got this and I got this and I feel this way and I feel that way. And I,
It's got to be cancer causing all this. Yeah.
yeah. And then when he said that, it just brought what was unconsciously one of my biggest
Yeah.
fears. So my stuff started, my iatrophobia really was set up when I was a teenager. My
Mm-hmm.
grandfather got pancreatic cancer. Well, sorry. My grandfather went for exploratory surgery
Mm.
and they found pancreatic cancer and they said he won't last 3 months. And I remember I was 16 years old and I remember thinking, oh,
Yeah.
come on, we'll fix this. I don't know, what's the symptom?
Mm-hmm.
Let's fix that. You can't poop. Okay, let's do laxatives or prunes or
Yeah.
something.
Like, let's try something.
Yeah, it hurts. Okay, let's give you some painkillers until it stops hurting. Like,
Mm-hmm.
come on, let's do something about it. Let's not just give up. And he did. He
Mm-hmm.
lasted 6 weeks.
Wow.
And
And I bet, it was happened so quickly just because of the stress
I
around the
think so.
situation.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the chemotherapy.
I don't know
You can
if
call
they
it that. If they actually, I don't know if they do. I don't know much
I know
about
he was on
chemotherapy.
morphine, and morphine is
Oh,
basically almost starving you to death.
yeah, I've heard. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, like morphine. I guess I hear it does horrible things to like shut down your digestive system. You become so vagatonic. Like,
Yeah, he was a big burly man. They told him he
oh,
had hard fat and he couldn't lose weight unless he stopped working. And I don't know. I don't believe any of the crap that they
yeah,
said at that time anymore. But
yeah.
when he died, he was like a stick with a big swollen belly.
Wow,
Yeah, it
wow.
was like a different man. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
he
It's so interesting, like how different people experience different, like situations. Because like me, like I'm pretty well off to do like financially and stuff like that. But like if I don't have like thousands of dollars in my bank account, like I'm freaking out. Whereas like I go look at my friends and they're like, I have $50 in my bank account. And I'm like, how are you not freaking out? Like I'm freaking out for you. Like I'm stressed out for you. Like I'm more stressed out for you than you are about yourself.
They've got a
And
different point of security.
yeah.
Like
Oh,
I
I
can
didn't
go
think
pretty
about
low in the
that.
bank account, not too low, but I can go
Yeah.
pretty low in the bank account. But I got one heck of a food stash. Don't tell anybody. I just admitted to myself years ago, I want to hoard. I want to hoard, but you know
Yeah.
what? I don't need to hoard everything, but I do need to hoard food, and I just let myself do it. And somehow I'm okay with the
It
money
makes you
now.
feel secure. Yeah. What makes you feel secure?
Yeah.
So,
I gotta
um,
have a house though. I gotta have a stable home.
mhm,
That's my key point of
mhm.
security. Yeah.
But yeah, like I really value my time. So like living really close to work is important for me. Like how you did. And then all of a sudden, like I see a lot of people like, oh, what's that on an hour commute to your job? And it just doesn't even register. To me, it is like a death sentence to have to commute an
And
hour
it's
a
like it's
day,
to me,
two
it's
hours
like
a day.
pure slavery, and
Yeah.
like whoever's making me do that is evil.
The
Yeah.
average person's like, oh, okay, change of scenery. It's like,
Are you just putting in time?
yeah.
What's going on? How can you do that? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how people do it. I feel
Yeah.
so sad for them
But
too.
they're healthier than us because they're not turning out all these special programs a lot of the time.
Oh,
So it's
is
kind of
that it? Or
funny.
are they so completely nuts that they never resolve anything?
Yeah, and a
Yeah,
little,
no,
probably a
no.
little of both. But
Yeah.
I I just noticed how like my brothers react to conflicts and how I react to just like little things, and it's like obvious, like why I had my digestive issues. They barely have any health issues.
Some, in some ways, though, it's a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
Symptoms are a blessing. And I believe this is what the fifth biological law means. The fifth biological law is the quintessence, and that
Mm-hmm.
means that every symptom we have is meaningful in the context of our evolution. Well, what is our evolution?
Mm.
Our evolution is us literally,
Evolving as a person, and
yeah.
yeah,
And it affects every cell in the body,
yeah,
including the genes. And
yeah.
so the mechanism's totally backwards to what the nihilistic sort of Richard Dawkins, well,
Mm-hmm.
Charles Darwin himself was just wrong about this. It's not random accidents that are then selected for.
Yeah.
We are changing our genes through our conflicts. But what is it? What is
Mm-hmm.
this evolution that we're doing? Why? It's because we want something.
Yeah.
And so symptoms are in fact helpful to us
Yeah.
because they are helping us to move. They're motivating us. They're
Yeah.
lighting a fire under our butts so that we're going for what we actually want by
Yeah.
making us super unhappy about what we do want. So the more you want to evolve, the more
Mm-hmm.
your evolutionary potential, the more conflicts you're going to have. So that's how I like to think of it.
Yeah.
People who
Yeah.
don't have conflicts, nothing's happening. They're not going anywhere. They're not developing.
It's
No
usually
ontogeny
true.
there.
Yeah. I like to tell people that pain is the best motivator, and it is. And the problem with pain is that we have a lot of ways to numb it and avoid it today.
Yeah.
I probably avoided most of my pain with video games and Netflix and stuff like
Yeah.
that, or a lot of people it's with drugs and alcohol. But it's better to confront that fear, and it's a lot easier to do when you have the right knowledge
Yeah.
to solve your conflicts or to get what you want.
Yeah. We have to watch out for determinism. That's what got me when I went to the doctor and he scared the hell out of me. But you know
Mm-hmm.
what? All of it, as awful as that time was, it motivated me to start thinking, like, what is this? Like the feeling comes, I'm noticing patterns. This, like, I
Mm-hmm.
feel this way, and then I have this symptom. And I started putting it together, and I started looking for connections and being scientific about it. Because
Mm-hmm.
what else could I do?
Yeah.
Um, and admitting to myself how I felt, that was a really big deal, because this stuff is
Mm.
happening unconsciously. When it's
Yeah.
biological, it's because it's unconscious. The
Yeah.
psyche's unconscious. So
Yeah.
you gotta use the clues to make it conscious, and then you can do something with it.
Yeah. I don't
Um,
notice the way I feel about something until I get a symptom.
yeah,
And half the
exactly.
time, and I like to use the frog in boiling water analogy. Like you've been in this boiling water for so long, like you're numb to the emotion that comes up and to
Yeah.
the pain that you feel. You just you like your brain has a way of dealing with it, just like shoving it off to the side. Um,
Well, even in GNM or GHK, even then we still can do this determinism thing where we get the idea that if we could avoid the tracks or avoid
mm-hmm,
the situation that makes us sick,
mm-hmm,
we're it's not going to work. We're
It's
just
not
going to
the
get more and more
purpose.
sensitive
Yeah.
because there's an evolutionary pull towards those kinds of situations. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to have a meltdown because my Lexus is the wrong color. You
Uh-huh.
know, I'm just going to find something to have the meltdown about. And if I try to avoid symptoms and avoid conflicts, and it's deterministic, it's the idea, but of course the whole world thinks this is kind of Western paradigm, is that
Uh-huh.
stuff happens to us and that's why we get sick. And
Uh-huh.
we grow up believing that, and then we learn the 5 biological laws. We can now think, oh yeah, conflicts, trauma happens to me and that makes me sick. But it's just completely the opposite. And when I had that really bad time and I had to figure out a way to somehow live and survive and get through this pain of the terror, the
Mm-hmm.
panic, the
Mm-hmm.
anxiety, the fear that I was going to die at any minute. I was just
Mm-hmm.
always having these panic attacks, and um, something started to grow in my mind that there is a reason for this.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I did discover in 2000, like maybe 5 years later, when I did
Mm-hmm.
stumble across this work of Dr. Hammer,
It's amazing you stumbled across it in 2002. Like,
I it was just this little article, and I was like, boom,
yeah.
boom, I fucking knew it. and
Yeah.
and it was science, and I'm a
Yeah.
scientist, so I don't have to be
Yeah.
woo woo about it. I don't have to
Yeah.
be all like, oh, I'm gonna wave my crystals and accept Jesus or whatever it is that
Yeah.
the hundreds of bullshit things that people told me is going to fix whatever.
Yeah.
No, I was stressed in a certain way, and that's why I did that with my
Yeah.
body.
Well,
Yeah.
what got me was because someone first explained it to me, they didn't do the best job explaining GNM to me. I was like, oh, what's all this? I thought like my body was just lacking nutrients and had too many toxins in it, completely blind to everybody eating total crap and rolling in toxins and being completely fine. Um, I read the 5 biological laws and I saw the brain CT scans. And then I also saw like the body has a pattern. Like I'd never, like, literally there's nothing that explains the cell loss and cell proliferation, the cell proliferation and the cell removal, the cell loss and the cell restoration. It's such a simple thing, but no one explains like what is actually going on the organ level, get alone the brain level and the psyche. Like it's just like such, like, truth is stranger than fiction. Like when it all came together, I was just like, there's nothing even close to explaining that, what's going on in our bodies. There's nothing close to it.
It's all throughout the health industry, not just conventional allopathic medicine, but
Yeah.
through so much of it, there is this determinism, this it happened to me.
Yeah.
It's like we believe culturally, and now globally almost,
Yeah.
it's like we believe I am on the verge of just falling apart at any moment. Like it's just
Yeah.
a miracle that I'm able to talk, because
Yeah.
my throat should have just exploded with all the bad things that have happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just waiting for it to all. And I think we've accepted that, oh, it's just random. Just, yeah, it's just,
Yeah.
that was the weak point, so it gave out first or whatever. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
why?
It's
But why would it? And we
yeah.
are a dissipative system. We are a new body. We're
Oh
constantly
yeah.
replacing everything in our body. So how 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 is it breaking down even as it's replacing? It's like it's fresh and brand new every moment. There
Yeah.
has to be a reason for these things.
Yeah.
And the 5 biological laws give us the reason so perfectly.
Yeah.
Because and then when you find out, oh yeah, it was this and this, and you're like, holy crap, that's
Mm-hmm.
hilarious. It's almost like getting a joke.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my god.
Yeah, the things I get symptoms from are pretty funny from time to time. So I just got out of one relation, I just went through a divorce and I'm like getting into a new relationship, and this new relationship, you know, uh, my girlfriend will do something nice to me, and like I'll just get diarrhea. And before I'd be like, oh no, I'm gonna smell like poop and all this stuff, and get all stressed out about it. Oh, I didn't eat healthy enough, blah blah blah. Now I'm like, oh, all right, I guess I just resolved, like, female morsel conflict. And
Yeah,
all
or
right,
maybe
great.
a little track back to oh crap, like that, and then maybe like this like very brief moment of
Yeah.
constipation when you're thinking, well, okay, when's the other shoe going to drop, or whatever,
Yeah.
when your
Yeah.
former partner would be nice to you, what did that mean? And then
Yeah.
and your body's like, oh
Yeah.
no, wait, no, it's fine. And then
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
right into
And
the crisis.
so yeah, it's just like conditioning from, the 15 years since high school. I've been, dating people, and it's kind of gone from this relationship to the next. And yeah, no, it's just helped me understand myself and people. It's yeah, I'm not like I just remember 2 years ago now. It's just like I go to the store and I just eat whatever I want. Whereas before it's just like you go to the mall and you get to the food court, it's like I can't eat anything. I have to go to this special store over here, and all I can eat is like salami or something ridiculous, whatever thing I was on. And
Life
everyone
is
was
too
much
short,
healthier.
and life is
Everybody
too
was
short to
much
have
healthier
food
with me.
intolerances.
Yeah. Yeah. You literally can't do anything. You can't, like, if you can't eat gluten, like what the hell, what are you gonna do? You literally can't eat anywhere.
Well,
It's a little bit better now,
I
but
don't know. I'm wondering what's good. Like, I'm pretty uptight. I don't know if they're real or not. They could be
yeah.
faked, but I've seen a couple photos where somebody takes a photo of the back of the package and it's got crickets in it now, and I'm like, oh my
Oh,
god! So now I'm.
it's happening.
So what if I? So I, I wonder if I'll. I wonder if I'll have a reaction. Maybe I'll be cricket intolerant.
Well, I'm pretty picky about the foods like that I'll eat. Like I just was a picky kid growing up. And to make things worse, my parents would sit me down at the table and force me to eat like beans and carrots and stuff like that. And it was a big scene. And you know,
You may even have had the blood sugar stuff then, high blood sugar, like get away with it because a lot of kids have it about food.
oh yeah, discuss conflict. So yeah, for
Yeah, like
sure. And
yeah.
and I still have like the same viscer, like I will gag. Like if you make me eat spinach or something, like I will
Cooked carrots.
gag.
I would literally, and then I would get
Yeah.
whapped on the head like you just rude.
Eat it.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
it's funny. I was my cousin and I were both super like a lot of pout pictures at the table. Like, don't make me
Hmm.
eat that. That's so gross. Um, and my mother would I think she sometimes she did it because she was on a mean cruel streak. Like she'd just put something in front of me like liver or something, and she'd say, "You're just
Hmm.
gonna sit there till you eat it,"
Hmm.
and it would be
Hmm.
4 hours at the table. Just pure
Wow.
torture.
Wow. I
Yeah,
thought I thought I was tortured. Wow.
yeah. She was just once in a while. She was like, "You are not the boss of this kid," but
Yeah.
mostly I won. But I remember I was about 10 or 11, and I saw my cousin having a big meltdown about something on his plate, and I just
Hmm.
thought, God, you look like an idiot. I think I had an identity conflict around that
Hmm.
time, and I just became it became the identity conflict is the feminine
Yeah.
version of the anger conflict. So it's but it
Yeah.
was we turn the feminine, or if you're in a feminine hormonal status when you have the conflict, it's this as angry as an anger conflict is against somebody else where you want to go rip their head off with your teeth.
Hmm. Hmm.
The identity conflict is exactly the same feeling inverted. Like I
Yeah.
cannot be to blame. I cannot be wrong. And like I have to
Hmm.
be totally blameless or I'm going to die if I'm at fault in any way. It's a very, boy, that makes us put up with crap. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of people in our culture today have the identity conflict.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But it,
It's
somehow
I
but it got me over it. Like I just started eating stuff I didn't even like because I had to not be like him. Which
I'm
is
not
nice.
gonna
It
be
opened
like
up my
that.
meal, but I still will not eat cooked carrots.
Cooked carrots. Yeah. Yeah. Not missing much. So yeah, it's so interesting, like with the temporal lobes and the masculine and the feminine, the estrogen and the testosterone being played with. And, today people don't even know what it is to be masculine and feminine. That was a big part of my relationship issues. Like I didn't know how to be masculine. And I'm a left-handed male. Like I'm have a tendency to be more
Yeah,
masculine based on
you tend to go even more masculine when you have a territorial thing.
yeah, yeah. But even with biology being on my side. Like I didn't know what it was to be a man, and that's why my relationships were so screwed up. And it's
And then if you don't know what it is to be a man, you're going to connect with people who don't know how to be women.
wow, that's pretty profound. I
Because
totally agree with that.
people who know how to be women would not put up with a man who doesn't know how to be a man.
Yeah,
it'd be like trying to have a relationship with a small child or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's sexist to be masculine. It's sexist to be, or you're just being a ditz if you're feminine, and it's totally ridiculous. Um,
You
like
know what it is? It's childish. It's
yeah,
developmentally arrested childish. That's what it is.
yeah. But it's very like. So I was talking to like a female friend the other day, and they were having like these masculine conflicts, and I'm like, these shouldn't even be conflicts for you. Like it's not feminine to have like these desires. Like it's and when you do achieve this goal, you're going to be under so much stress. Like it's the man's job to carry that stress in the business or the relationship. Like it's your job to support, and you're really good at that. Like you're really good at supporting people. Like do what you're good at. And I know some females might get like offended by me saying that, but like it depends on your hormone status. It depends on where you are at life. It depends on what you're competent at. There's so many things to juggle.
It's been imposed too, and I think it's an identity
It's a
conflict.
movie thing. It's in movies. It's in
Yeah,
our
it's like,
culture. It's in schools.
yeah. I
It's the
remember when
American dream.
I had a geology degree, and I'm doing environmental cleanup, and I'm out there with my hard hat and my cigarette, and I've got my power tools, and I'm driving a truck, and I'm doing all the things, and I'm really good at it. But I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be a midwife.
Yeah.
But I felt like I was betraying feminism by, like, I felt like it was a
You're
secret.
betraying feminism. You are. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a secret desire to do a womanly job instead of this.
We're two like aware people, and we're gonna confuse each other with the word feminism. If depending on
Feminism.
it's depending on like what context we use the word in.
Here's where I am with feminism. I think the first bit of feminism was okay.
Yeah.
I think it was about not being beaten down, but it really
Yeah.
wasn't about feminism. It was about abuse. It
Yeah.
was about growing up and being real women and real men.
Yeah.
And you don't have a need for feminism you
Yeah.
don't have a need for equal rights if there aren't rights being violated, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think the initial wave of it, although misnamed feminism, I think it was okay.
Yeah.
Women's liberation would have been a better term to just keep.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I agree too.
I have come to the point where I believe that feminism is toxic masculinity. There, I said it.
I agree with you. It's not feminism. Again, it's like it depends on who you're. It's like there are some good feminine leaders, but you wouldn't call them feminists. You just call them like they're teaching women feminine principles.
Adult people being women or talking
Yeah.
about being like, it's just
Yeah.
adult womanliness. It's
Yeah.
totally cool.
Yeah.
But feminism is not it's not feminine.
It's not feminine.
B, it is toxic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
But with the whole like the gender confusion today, and it's so fascinating from a GNM perspective. It's something happened before puberty, and it didn't get resolved, and it locked in a hormonal status, and
and it's kind of brutal in the way that childhood bullying on the playground could be so nasty.
mm-hmm.
Like, I don't like you, so we're all going to beat the crap out of you in the corner at
Yeah.
recess.
And if you just went through a move, you just lost all your friends, and now you're in this new school, and
yeah.
mom and dad are busy at work, and
yeah, and it's hard. It's hard stuff, and to be arrested in that state is
mm-hmm.
it's an interesting time we're living in. But I don't think civilizations fall apart because they just kind of overdo whatever. Like, I don't think they was just run out of resources. I think that they start having territorial stuff, and
mm-hmm.
people get developmentally arrested, and then they have children who they then developmentally arrest at an even younger age. And I think that the civilization gets younger and younger, and descends into hedonism and childishness until the leaders are all like a bunch of 2-year-old pedophiles and creeps and weirdos with crack habits and stuff.
The Roman Empire, when you get into it, it's like
Orgies?
the
Come on, is
gender
that
roles
being
fall
an
apart.
adult? Yeah. Is
The
that
gender
being an
roles
adult
really fall
human,
apart.
female or male? Is that
Yeah.
being a woman or a man to go and have a vomitorium and kill everybody while you're high or something? Like
Yeah. Yeah. It's really, it's just, I feel really bad for the people going through, like, they they start to have these homosexual thoughts, so they get these, oh, I want to get a sex change, and like it's terrifying. Like they think something's wrong with them, and God forbid you get religion in the mix. If they just understood what was going on, whether they could fix it or not by resolving the conflict, or just be like, hey, these were the cards I was dealt, and this conflict's not going to go, because some of these conflicts, there's sometimes you can do something about it, sometimes it's too late, and
yeah, well, I was
being at peace
mythomanic
with
and I
it.
was compulsive about it. Like I had the fear and I had the identity, and they were painful conflicts. So the mythomania was quite real. And if I wasn't,
you had mythos,
yeah, if I wasn't like compulsively trying to talk to people and make them understand stuff and talking way too much, I was writing. And if I wasn't doing that, or either if I couldn't get it out in some way, it was in my head going 1,000 miles an hour. So it was, but the I lost my train of thought. Oh, we can, I I don't have those feelings. I don't have those painful feelings anymore. But I can
was this
still, I
from
can,
like hypochondriac, like medical fear
well,
stuff you're talking
yeah,
about?
this was, yeah, when I was in my late 20s, when I started having my anxiety stuff and my nasty boss, and then my mom, she left the country and sold her house, and I had nowhere to go home to, so I kind of, and I had a bunch of territorial stuff going on, and I started developing anxiety and panic, and that's why I went to this doctor, and he told me breast cancer stuff and really freaked me out, right?
Yeah.
But the main constellation that I had moving forward out of that was the Mythomania constellation. So I had
that will kind of just make you more conflict active.
Yeah. Well, I had an identity conflict. So that was my feminine conflict. Like, where do I belong? Where do I fit in? I can't go home. I'm not welcome anywhere. And everything's my responsibility. Every unhappiness ever is my responsibility. And I had this, see, what was going on is I had this tremendous anxiety because I had danger from in front. I had always these looming issues, and then I was also having this powerlessness, like I couldn't do anything about stuff, stuck in traffic a lot of the time. I just had so many, in that time in my life, I just had a lot of bad problems in my lifestyle, so I had this anxiety. But what I came out of that time with was mostly like an identity conflict, pointing at the part of my brain where that conflict lives. And I had and then I had the territorial fear in the bronchial, because I'm right-handed. If I had been left-handed, I would have had it in the two opposite hemispheres, and I would have been autistic about it. But I was mythomanic, so speaking is the human form of primate grooming. We have this evolutionary adaptation to be able to talk, so that we can groom 100 people at a time. Grooming is hard work, and you can only really, it's like half an hour per group, but if we could talk, we can groom the whole crowd at once. And so that's why humans talk. It's our primate grooming. So you think of the chimp that's kind of the outcast, the ugly one, that's kind of, that's the one that's going around compulsively trying to group, like, please be my friend, please be my friend. It's fawning. That's what mythomania is. And I came out of it with that. So now I don't have this horrible identity conflict and this horrible fear. I don't have those problems anymore. I mean, they're easily triggered when I get really, really stressed out. Either one of those could be triggered, I think, easily. But I have not lost my gift for gab, and I do not have writer's block. I can just fill a page. Like it's a formula. I've got the brain parts for it now. I
Wow.
grew them through biological programs.
That's really cool. That makes you wonder like how many authors have like mythos or something.
Yeah,
They like a lot of them
yeah.
must.
And
So
Stephen King with his 3-inch thick books.
yeah.
But if you look at his glasses, he's got 3-inch thick glasses too. The guy's got a paranoia thing, and he scares himself. And
Ah.
he's mythomanic, and he writes these giant books. Like he needs to
Oh
spend more
wow.
time shortening them, I think.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's so interesting seeing the constellations at play in
yeah.
people.
Now,
Um,
if there's abusive stuff going, if somebody's being mean in my life to me, and don't quite, I don't quite know how to sort it out, and it's kind of
yeah,
happening in an unconscious way,
yeah,
I will start to have anxiety. I don't really know I'm having anxiety, but I'll start to be kind of manic.
yeah, yeah,
And that's the identity conflict. And then because
yeah.
I'll start doing the unconscious strategies to try to deal with that,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll be like, wait a minute, I am being, I'm anxious. I'm
Mm-hmm.
being, or I'll start to have the tingle of a panic attack.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it'll
Mm-hmm.
be a health related thing. And I'll be like, oh, and then I'll be like, oh, okay, now I know. I know that
Mm-hmm.
something's going on in my life because all these things are, and I've really, really taken them apart over the years to
Mm-hmm.
understand them. Okay, so all of this is, I don't know what it is, but there's a clue that there's somebody in my life lately that I feel was kind of scary and abusive.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I'll be like, yes, and I'll
Yeah,
figure it
that
out.
person.
And it's like, whoosh, it's almost like I can almost feel this wave of relief and everything's better. Maybe I
Yeah,
have to sleep a bit or something like that.
yeah,
So
yeah.
this is the thing. We might get developmentally arrested at an early age, and it's very
Mm-hmm.
common. I'm like, most of us are kind of immature,
Oh,
and
oh
maybe
yeah. I'm 34. I must have had some sort of a maturity stop. I'm straight, so wasn't too severe, but I definitely matured a lot in this past year or two, just physically. Like I gained 20-30 pounds. Like I look a
yeah,
little bit more
yeah. There's
masculine or
grace.
whatever, and
There's
yeah,
grace. Yeah.
but I'm still look very young for my age versus like what my parents would have looked like or something.
The
So
weird thing is, I looked much older than I was in my 20s, and then it reversed.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We in between when one, you just have to go out of a constellation by resolving only one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And anytime there's the constellations are, anytime you are free of a constellation, you could still have a territorial conflict, but you just the one,
Mm-hmm.
you then develop like 3 times faster. So
Mm-hmm.
the age that you get to, the maturity that you get to, is represents all the breaks you had in between being constellated.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you stayed constellated the whole time, you could still resolve the two. It's like, I don't have the territorial fear all the time. I don't have the identity conflict all the time. I'm going to still keep my personality that developed as a result of having that, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
have to keep the two conflicts. It's
Yeah.
possible to resolve the constellation. Your
Yeah.
personalities, somebody can resolve the conflict that was why they became gay.
Mm.
Doesn't mean they go straight, and it wouldn't be good for you to go straight.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And from my knowledge, like the hormones have developed you to be that way. And it's like, unless there's like major work, like by taking hormones, like it's not going to switch your biology to make you attracted, switch your attraction. So, yeah.
yeah, I think so. I think we are kind of like in Rome. It got really hedonistic at the end. It was just,
Yeah.
and they were kind of useless. They were just all
Yeah.
fighting and stabbing each other, and then like make the minions do 20 years of military service
Yeah.
and take 80% of their
Yeah.
salary, their
I
salt, right?
like when you get in there, it's just it's insane to call. We're so delirious that salt is bad for you. It's like literally like, what do you need to survive? Air, water, and people skip salt, but like salt's the next thing. It's wild. It's really wild.
It
So
really is.
So
Yeah,
one
so I
question I
think
have
I
for
think
you
that
is,
I think we're kind of there culturally right now.
yeah,
I think we got really developmentally arrested people
yeah,
running things, and
yeah,
they're messed in the head, and
mm-hmm,
they're so territorially messed up, and it's been building through generations. Like it's kind of like an incest thing
mm-hmm,
where you genetically get weird. Supposedly,
mm-hmm,
I think you psychologically get really messed up, and these people are at the top of the so-called pyramid, right?
yeah,
So how do we fix a society like that? Do we just have to go down the toilet because we can't resolve developmental arrest or schizophrenic constellations after a certain point? Is that what happens? I don't think so. I think we can still resolve the constituent conflicts that make up constellations.
yeah,
And I think we can learn what it is to be a man, what it is to be a woman, and then we can live from that, even though it doesn't come naturally to us.
yeah,
I think we can learn it as a second language, and I think we can pull out of this and not mess up our kids, you know? So
yeah.
I believe
Yeah, it's very interesting. I was in the East for, Eastern Europe, and the gender roles are definitely more established there. Um, things are kind of messed up over there, though. Things aren't perfect there, but I would just love to see a world where people understand their biology a little bit better and understand gender roles better. It would solve so many
it
problems.
would solve so many problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
But,
world is the world is teaching us wrong things.
mm-hmm.
And unfortunately,
Yeah.
it's up because it's not our symptoms are not determined by the world. They're determined by our own evolutionary pull
Yeah.
and our own psyche and how
Yeah.
we are interpreting events and what matters to us.
Yeah.
And so therefore the only one who can pull us out of this crazy time is it comes down to one person at a time. Like
Yeah.
I am a community of one when it comes to that.
Yeah.
But there's also once I accept that, there's kind of a joy in it.
Yeah.
This is a time when it means a lot to get my act together these days.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
sets me ahead of the crowd, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a big leg up. So that's reassuring. Feels nice. So how long so you started to learn GNM in 2002, and kind of resources were pretty limited on that at the time. Like I needed significant coaching to understand that's what you had
There
already.
was this one book, and it kept referring to the chart, and there was
Luckily
no,
you're a mythos, so you were able to really dive into this stuff.
yeah.
I had to look up words. I was like, do I even know English? What do these words mean? But
Yeah,
how
and
long did it take for you to kind of develop this knowledge and then get a handle on your symptoms, or did you work with somebody? Did you get
I you know what, I had already been working on, I had already made this connection that okay, there it like
so
what's happening
emotional
in me, my
or yeah,
emotional stuff is
yeah,
then the physical stuff is coming with that.
okay,
and
okay,
and my emotional stuff is because of bad things that I'm experiencing. Like I had already kind
mm-hmm,
of put that together, and I couldn't
mm-hmm,
find any sort of good pattern to it, but I did know that it was stress somehow,
mm-hmm,
very vague term.
yeah,
um and I kept working at it and working at it, and I would do more of what felt good.
mm-hmm.
And I, even though I knew, like I was at the
that,
naturopath.
that that can accomplish quite a bit, but you really do need that knowledge to get
you
certain
gotta you gotta
symptoms.
yeah, you
Yeah,
gotta get stuff out of the unconscious and into the conscious. That's
yeah,
kind of what's happening.
yeah,
um the so I had already kind of been trying to figure that out. So when I found this article and read it, it was written by Ilsadora Laker, and it
okay,
was like, psh, aha, I got it, right?
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm,
I started taking her trainings,
okay.
and I did I did her, I think it was 4 levels, and then she did a CT scan reading course in
She did
2000.
she did a CT
Yeah, she
scan
did it in
reading course.
2009.
Okay.
I don't know if she did any more after that, but that was a really neat course.
Yeah, there's a lot of controversy because people think reading CT scans is easy. It's like, no, someone
It's
could have
kind
their
of looked
head like
like,
this, someone could have their head like this.
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
it's a little bit like those magic eye photos too. Like it takes a
yeah.
moment for the circles to emerge in when they're, especially when they're active.
Mine are in the brain. Mine mostly were in the brainstem, and I'm like looking at the brainstem. I'm like,
That's hard because that's tiny.
They're
If you put
tiny.
your fingers in here, you're pointing at it's like a little knob on the top of your
Yeah,
spine.
like I'm actually holding a brainstem.
Oh, there you go. That's cool.
Yeah, I got this little thing to kind of help show people where
Aw.
things are. So
Yeah. So so it was, I found it really just so beautifully, fascinatingly interesting, and it made sense
yeah.
to learn these connections. But immediately I knew, okay, the answer's in the psyche, the problems in the psyche, and the solutions in the psyche.
Yeah.
And that psyche is a mysterious thing. Even if you
Yeah.
Google like or look in the dictionary under psyche,
I didn't
some
know
people
what
call
that
it
word meant.
some people
I
call it the soul. I don't think psychiatrists know what a psyche is. I think they think it's just this weird magical blob of dreamland
like
or something. Like,
where's it come from out of the brain? Like what part of
yeah,
the brain produces it? I don't know.
what's happening in there? Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's so I needed to learn about the psyche. Like some people say it's the soul, and you go look up the soul, and the soul is supernatural. But
Yeah.
this is natural laws. These are biological laws.
Yeah.
How can the psyche be supernatural? Like well, you know what? It's determinism again. It's saying, yeah, these conflicts are coming from the devil and flying through and landing in our soul, and then
Mm-hmm.
like it's hogwash. So I
Mm-hmm.
had to learn
Mm-hmm.
about the psyche, and I learned about it by accident. I did a mindfulness I had done. This is right before I did the training with. I knew about GNM or the five bio. It wasn't called GNM yet. It was just Dr. Hammer's new medicine.
Oh wow. Okay.
Um, I knew about the new medicine, and I and but I still had anxiety and back pain and all this bullshit. Like it went
Yeah,
on for
yeah, yeah.
years and years, this stuff, right? And I
Yeah,
knew I was
yeah.
doing it with my mind somehow. And somebody convinced me to take the mindfulness based stress reduction program. I was like, no, it's conflicts, but okay, whatever.
Yeah.
So I did this training, and and I I started to really feel better. So I
Okay.
was like, okay, that, and then I did the GNM training, but I just knew it's got to do with the mind. It's a
Yeah.
mind game. It
Yeah.
is not a find out the conflict and you're fixed game at all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so in 2007, on a pure whim, I went on an enlightenment intensive, which I thought was going to be a weekend of meditating.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out who I was, and I found out
Oh
what the
wow.
mind is. And I discovered, oh, it's something I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just studied and I learned the methodology behind that technique. And it's a communication technique.
Yeah.
And through that, I started to really start to make progress. But at the time, the hard part was that the way to relate, the way to fix stuff in the psyche was to relate it to somebody. But the GNM people just kind of were very technical and
Yeah,
not
it's
really
very
philosophical.
technical. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then the people who I was learning the mind clearing stuff from, they said, well, that's physical. We don't go there.
We don't
Like
go there.
like
Yeah.
F off with your
Yeah. Well,
quackery.
I
GNM.
really like some of the people I work with. It's the environment, and you have the physical environment, and then you have the environment in your head, and they're both kind of interdependent on one another. But there's stimuluses coming into your environment, and the stimulus is like, okay, somebody likes liver. Oh yeah, liver, and then you get shown a piece of liver, and you're like, oh, and it's like, what meanings do we attach to these stimuli? You can throw someone in a new environment, and maybe they're not getting stimulated to behave one way or another, but there's so many stimuluses that's like it can get overwhelming pretty fast, especially if somebody with mythos.
Would
So
you like to hear a crash, a quick user's guide to your psyche?
yes,
All
I do.
right.
I'm really curious to hear.
Okay. 4 levels to the psyche. Down in the bottom of your psyche, here's what it's doing all day long. It's taking on a state.
Mm-hmm.
And this is play acting what you want to be. This is the evolutionary pull.
Okay.
So right now, I want to make dinner. I want to be a chef. So I take on the state of a chef, and that motivates me to get, and it filters through and it goes to my biology. It actually gets my butt off this chair and I go in the kitchen and I make myself a beautiful gourmet dinner.
Okay.
All right. So we're doing that. We take on states or identities all day long. And this is a perfectly natural way. And this is what the psyche's for. That's
Yeah.
its job.
Yeah.
So it's play acting a role. But what happens if we take on this state? So we have a goal when we take on a state.
Yeah.
What happens when we take on a state and then we go and we relate in that certain way, and that fulfills the goal and we're done.
Yeah.
All day long we're doing this. What happens when we take on a state in order to attain a goal and then we have a negative experience? What we then get into a fixed state or a fixed identity, and it's a stuckness and it's got a charge. And what it is, it's a communication barrier or a relating barrier. It's protecting us because we still have that goal.
That never got reached.
We still have that goal. And now it's like means more.
Yeah.
But we have to avoid that negative experience. So we take on a fixed state of, I don't do that. We have these two, it's like a battery. It's got a negative end and a positive end of this fixed, stuck identity. It's like trying to get that goal, but it can't because that experience. That's what a trauma is. Out of that fixed identity arise our beliefs. And you can go ahead and you can.
And identity is just a collection of beliefs.
If you can go and you can rewrite new beliefs and plant them in with hypnosis or whatever trick you want to do, but you're just wallpapering over your existing beliefs. And as soon as you have a bad emotion that relates to that, your actual belief is going to override.
Yeah, the belief is just like
and that belief. So that belief is arising out. So as soon as you get into a situation where that where that fixed identity is, that negative experience is possibly going to happen, we call those tracks in GNM. We call them, they're reminders of the actual conflict. As soon as that's triggered, the belief is going to, it doesn't matter how many beautiful beliefs you put in there, that belief that's arising out of the stuck identity, that's going to be triggered no matter what. As soon, right?
Can I repeat that really quick? So you have these stimuli that remind you of the conflict, and it's like the tracks are straight to that belief.
Yeah, your actual belief is going to override because that belief
arises out, the strong belief.
Now out of the belief arises the third layer, which is the thoughts. Thoughts have a biological side always, and that's what we call emotion. So that's all of our feelings. We don't feel our thoughts. We barely notice our thoughts.
People totally ignore like everything we do is biological. And then but we think we have and all of our thoughts are just backward rationalizing.
They're coming
out
of
biology wants us to do.
The thought is coming out of the belief, and the belief is coming out of the fixed identity. The thought is coming out of the belief, and the belief is coming out of the state or identity, which has a purpose. And so the thought always has this emotional side to it. And if something's going on in your world that triggers that belief, then you are going to have that thought. It doesn't matter how much you try to control your thoughts and affirm and law of attraction and think better thoughts and stop thinking about that. And no matter how much you try to do all that, as soon as something comes along that triggers that emotion, triggers that belief that's underneath, then you are going to have that thought and you're going to have the emotions. You're going to feel bad. Doesn't matter how many nice thoughts you tried to have. You can't store them up. So then last layer, the top layer, the outermost layer, the one we see and feel and experience and other people notice, is our actions. And our actions always arise out of our emotions. So you go ahead, you go to get all the life coaching in the world, and you have this beautiful plan that you put together, and you come up with all these plan of action to attain that goal. And then you do all these motivations to make yourself do those actions. The minute that negative emotion is triggered, you're going to act based on that. 100%. You will totally override. So
Yeah. No, I see this behavior a lot. So my question right now, because I feel like a lot of people get lost in their thoughts.
yeah, we got to go all
What
the way down to that fixed identity, and that's where the GNM is so helpful because it tells
what's
us all these
the
clues, right? It tells us, oh, you have a fixed identity of
yeah,
I don't want to, like, I want that morsel and it belongs
yeah,
to me and it's been taken away.
yeah. So what's the biological purpose of thoughts?
The thoughts
It's kind of a
are
because I know
the
that's like a
thoughts
tricky
lead to the
question.
moment by moment emotions, which give us instructions on how to act.
Okay, so it's like a gateway between emotions and the actions. Like
Yes,
yeah,
yeah, thought,
like
the
like a,
backside of a thought is the emotion, and all actions spring out of emotion.
yeah, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Yeah, so we have the fixed identity at the bottom, then we
mm-hmm,
have beliefs which arise out of that, and
mm-hmm,
if that fixed identity is triggered for some reason,
mm-hmm,
that belief is going to be triggered.
mm-hmm.
And then arising out of the belief, we have our thoughts,
My
which
thoughts.
has the emotional as the biological side of the thought.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing that all day long. I think it, and the body has does emotion. Emotions are just biology.
Yeah, yeah.
So out of the belief arises the thought. As soon as that belief is triggered, that thought will happen
Mm-hmm,
and the emotion will happen.
mm-hmm.
So then out of the thoughts and emotions, well, more specifically out of the emotions,
Yeah,
arise the action. So as soon as
yeah,
that emotion is triggered, that action is going to happen.
yeah. And today what I see a lot of is, we're numbing ourselves up emotions or finding good ways to avoid those emotions to take the action to get out of the sticky situation
Yeah.
that somebody's in.
Yeah. But
Um,
we're working up here and the real stuff is
is
down
down
here.
down in the
Yeah.
beliefs. Yeah,
Yeah. And even the tissue
I'm well
changes.
aware of like how important beliefs are, but I often neglect it, like on myself, and when I work with people, it's so important because the
Yeah.
belief is it's the hardwiring for your brain to save energy, so it doesn't have to like
Yeah.
logically make sense of things every single
Exactly.
time you have a conversation or something.
Yeah. It's not optional.
Yeah.
But we got to save that energy. It's a rule.
Oh yeah. Every time I have a day where I have to do like new things, I'm exhausted.
Yeah,
It's
it's
something
triggering.
little.
Yeah, the act. Yeah, an action is just the physical compulsion that comes out of the emotion, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so tissue changes, like functional loss, functional gain.
And it actually, yeah, well, yeah. I wasn't when you just saying that I wasn't aware of like action being the physical adaptation of a special
Yeah,
program.
yeah. The thing that makes your cells do this, or your whatever, your voltage go up or down, or your
Yeah.
sugar go up or down, is the same thing that makes you get off your butt. It's the same
Mm-hmm.
thing that makes you go tell off the neighbor what a
Mm-hmm.
jerk he is. It's the same thing that makes you plant yourself on the couch with the
Yeah.
remote. It's like it's
Yeah.
all that is the final outcome at the top layer after there's been a thought slash emotion, after there's been a belief, after which arises out of that stuck or fixed
Mm-hmm.
identity. And so as long as that fixed identity is there, we we're basically slaves to it, right?
Yeah. 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 It's like yeah. You got to get to the core of it, because
Yeah.
just putting like the wallpaper on top of wallpaper. It's the foundation, the studs in the wall or whatever. However, it's gonna that's where the base of your behaviors are coming out of. It's your core beliefs. And
Nice thing is that fixed or stuck identity has a goal that's for your betterment. It's
yeah,
got to do with your evolution. So
yeah,
so if you kind of can just sort of admit, I want that,
mm-hmm,
that in itself can um, decrease the charge of it and allow you to move forward. Because the whole
mm-hmm,
purpose of a special biological program, what we call conflicts or symptoms,
mm-hmm,
the whole purpose of it is for your betterment.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it's to aid
It's,
survival or to push
yeah,
push you, help you get your goal.
yeah.
So yeah,
So
no, that's a wonderful system to have to helping somebody
Yeah.
work through their emotional baggage or whatever, whatever we want to call it. So
Yeah. And that's all I do. I'm just trying to help people to, if they can
yeah.
understand that that's what's going on. Like it's like this little trickster in there,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't even know you've got this going on, but it's running the whole show. And if you know that that's going on, you can work together.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a really strange feeling to kind of have like one of these core, I'm trampling on people's beliefs all day long with the food stuff. But when you take somebody back, I mean, there's so it's like so blinding, like, oh, I got sick. I celebrated my conflict resolution with ice cream and a steak, and I am intolerant to red meat and baby food. And since then, I've reinforced this belief with hundreds of YouTube videos and tens of books. And it's like there's something else traumatic that almost needs to happen in order to shake that belief, where they just get down to the point where they're in the hospital and they can't tolerate water. Like that's the thing that needs to it's almost like something like that needs to shake that belief. Maybe you have a better strategy, but that's just something I've witnessed.
I have a celiac friend who will not budge, will not budge. And I can see it. I can see he has there's certain patterns in his life, certain people he spends time with, certain activities he'll do. He doesn't do them very often, but I know he's going to have very specific symptoms over the next week or two, and I can feel it coming. And the language, it's a virtual friend, we hardly ever see each other in real life. But I'll see the tone change in the text messages, and I can see the anger rising, and I can see it looking for a reason. And then finally, I got glutenized.
I got glutenized.
I got glutenized. Yeah. And there's other stuff that goes with it that I haven't figured out yet, but it's fast. Like there's a time thing too. Like, I've been feeling so awful for it's got to be 3 months now. But now that I've cut coffee, I'm feeling great. And then like a week later,
I love the coffee cycle. You only quit coffee for so long before you come back to it.
Yeah. And then a week later, it's like, you know what? Life has never been so good since the last couple months since I haven't been drinking coffee. And it's like, dude, no, a week ago you were profoundly depressed because of what you blamed on coffee. And you can't blame anything on gluten anymore because you got to blame the coffee or the eggs or whatever. And it's like
so yesterday
I've been trying to explain this GNM stuff to him for years, and it's not going in. He just thinks it's hilarious.
So yesterday I was in the grocery store. I'm in California right now, so like there's like lots of gluten-free options. But I was like in the kosher section, and I was looking at the matzah bread, and it was like regular matzah bread and gluten-free matzah crackers. And I was just like, this is so ridiculous. And like and it's just like, if you read the Old Testament, the biggest thing that pisses off God is lack of faith. And, what more lack of faith than being freaking afraid of wheat?
Is it the Old Testament that says don't manna from heaven and don't store up your treasures?
I think so.
Yeah.
But my new fun thing to do is to poke fun at gluten intolerant Christians, because it's just so ridiculous.
Who are you mad at? Who are you mad at, Kristen? Who are you mad at about your gluten intolerance?
Yeah, like I can't take communion. It's just like you have so little faith. Like I feel bad. Honestly, I feel bad for you, and I want those people to do better. But like, it's just like the faith. Like you can't. You're so faithless. Like you worry about everything. You don't believe Jesus got your back, and you have half of the Bible that just gets like totally ignored is like you have to choose to be at peace and ignore the worry, and it just takes over people's lives.
I think the scientific revolution and the nihilism that came after it, like Nietzsche said, God is dead. He lamented that God is dead. I think it has made us so sick.
Oh yes. Like,
top 10 causes of death or top 9 causes of death are disease.
Yeah.
We should be dying from bungee jumping and cool stuff like that. We should be dying from getting in a fight with a tiger or something. Like
Oh
we should
yeah.
be
Yeah,
dying because
diseases for sure the biggest cause of death. For
yeah,
sure.
and it shouldn't be at all. Like diseases should
Yeah.
not kill us.
Yeah.
It just shouldn't. And
Especially in the easiest time to be alive ever. Like, oh my God, easiest time to be alive.
so I think what's happened is we almost all of us have kidney collecting tubule conflict and
Mm,
syndrome because we have no security point because God is dead. We
yeah.
cannot trust anything, and
Yeah.
we've tried to make and it's a religion. We have tried to make the medical system our new
Well,
god, and
well,
Christians are the worst for this, and Christians
oh
are the worst
God. Yeah.
for
There.
GMO technologies and all. They're trying to find God in the physical
Mm.
because God has been taken away from them in actual life.
Well, I love this conversation we're having, but look what happened to the Native Americans, like when they got invaded by aliens from across the world. Like they all felt attacked, and it like literally wiped out. Like I don't know how true these statements are, but like 80-90% of the population, because they believed it to their core that like their their way of life is just done. Or
And I think it was. You're going along, life has all this certain meaning and structure to it. And this is an anthropology principle. When two cultures are too different from one another,
mm-hmm.
one will annihilate the other.
Yeah.
It's kind of a physics thing almost.
Yeah.
Um,
They didn't stand it. Like the way that they did warfare was just insane. The way that the Aztecs, the most like the way that they did warfare was like it's like playing like a basketball game. Like they were playing by all these rules, and the Europeans were like, "We're just gonna shoot you if you're gonna like sit there in the middle of the field doing this ritual."
yeah, you suck and we're better than you. So
Yeah.
serve us, do what we want, or hey, you're dead, you piece of crap. It
Yeah.
was, and then to see like the highest god king of your little
Yeah, they literally thought they
society.
were gods. Yeah, and they
Yeah,
just got treated like rag dolls
yeah,
by like the Europeans.
yeah.
That
We
like
did
your
all the
religion
right
is
things.
dead right then
Yeah.
and there.
So their god died.
And they really believed it because science was like just
Yeah.
it was religion over science
Yeah.
back then.
Didn't they mostly die of separation conflicts too? Didn't they have a lot of measles and or was it dire? I don't know what they supposedly died of.
I thought it was, I don't know because I don't study this very much, but I thought it was like the attack conflicts with coupled with like a death fright and then like the kidney collecting coup. So
Okay, so
I don't want to say the C word, but but it was just like this, the lungs filling up with water. You
okay,
got
so
the
really serious,
territorial
like
fear and
okay, so if it's filling up with water, so yeah, it was the kidney collecting tubule that would make the water part and make
well
you
think
die
of
in
like
three
if they
days
have
or
like an
something. That
attack conflict and then it's like, oh my God's dead, da 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 da, territorial
then you're gonna have the
fear,
kidney, which is gonna
then the
make you
kidney
hold the
collecting
water.
tubes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Instead of just
So
getting a gross infection, you're gonna also then fill up. Yeah.
yeah, because the
Okay. Yeah.
second you get a symptom, it's like, oh my God, the wrath of God, it's coming after me, and it just turns
Yeah.
on all sorts of stuff.
I'm trying to remember the books I've read about how it happened, but they mostly talk about like the first wave of Spaniards came were total douchebags.
Oh
I
yeah.
think the first wave might have been okay. They just kind of want to do religion, but then when the cleansing part, the ethnic cleansing, or whatever they
Well,
called
I
it,
like when Christopher Columbus came over on some of those islands. I like people were like, "Oh, it's the end of the world," and they just started like jumping off cliffs, like just like stuff like that. What does that do to society? Like,
wow.
I
I
don't
can
know
see
how
if people.
true. I don't know how true these stories are, but like, that happened.
I believe it. Well, yeah. Apparently, it took days for the seer to even make sense of what these things on the horizon were. Like there was
Yeah,
something weird going on with the horizon, but then eventually they realized, holy crap, they're just big ass boats of some kind with these weird
it's
dog-eyed,
the
hairy
equivalence
things.
of aliens showing up.
Yeah,
Like really,
and
like
the
and
rules are
just
so different. And then you're like, and then your mother gets murdered, and your priest God gets murdered, and Jesus gets murdered, and everybody gets murdered, and
mm-hmm.
you're like, well, this sucks, and I would totally jump off a cliff,
Yeah.
especially especially if my cosmology had dying being a totally noble way out of bullshit situation.
Oh
Right?
yeah. Death is treated so differently. Think about the Vikings and what other religions, like death is like a good thing.
And if you kill off the children of a society, it breaks them. This is one of the worst things about residential schools. Is
Mm,
they kind of came along, took away their children, and then the society broke. They were all alcoholics and drug addicts after that.
wow. Wow.
That's a really, yeah. So this is cultural anthropology kind of dynamics, and yeah.
Yeah.
How did we get onto this? It was pretty interesting.
I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, no, I think we've had a great conversation. Like it's, because I came from like the nutrition background, and it's just like, okay, these primitives had the perfect diet. They were on their primitive diet, and they died from the common cold. Like, what happened? Like
Their god was taken away from them. Their
yeah.
their so the kidney collecting tubule conflict is that your security in life,
Mm-hmm.
which is your god, your tribe,
Mm-hmm.
that thing that is holding you and carrying you all
Yeah.
your life, if that's taken away,
Yeah.
you're practically toast right then and there.
Yeah. And I can
Everything
only
else.
imagine how emotional you have to be, because like I've never really experienced that. And I feel like I've experienced some pretty emotional things, but like it just must be on another level for people who, where the symptoms manifest.
There's a big long German word that characterizes it. I don't know the German word, but it translates in English to "my mother's soul has abandoned me."
Uh,
But that infantile, when your mother is everything to you,
uh-huh.
what if she just vanishes and
Yeah.
you're just that infant? Just that's the kidney collecting tubule conflict.
Wow.
Makes
Wow.
everything else so
Well,
much.
yeah, your mother's your life for your like, your everything for, at least the first year. That's the way it
Yeah,
should be.
yeah.
So
You're
cool.
not. There's no you. There's just that security and the absence of it and the presence of it, and the absence of it and the presence of it, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think we've been talking long enough. I could talk more, but so how can people work with you? What kind of services do you offer?
All right, yeah. So well, I do give individual sessions.
Mm-hmm.
My website is called mindtreehealth.net, and you can
Mm-hmm.
email me at lishui@mindtreehealth.net, or you can just go to that website.
Okay.
I help people in one-on-one sessions. And what we do is we go into that psyche and into those structures, and we use the symptoms to find our way in there. And then we try to find the actual object, that actual conflict. And we
Mm-hmm.
try to find the goal and what are we trying to avoid. And we just try to
Mm-hmm.
get that charge gone. And it's an interesting experience because
Yeah.
we're in there in your psyche together.
Yeah. I like the goal of the conflict. Like, what's the exact opposite of the conflict?
Yeah, it's the reason for it.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
not going to go away till something's done about that.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
the but it's such a better experience. We can't do a lot in a 90-minute call in a
Yeah.
session. So I have this 9-week program. It's called
Mm-hmm.
Immune.
Mm-hmm.
And it's neat watching people go, there's no such thing as an immune system.
I think that's funny that you chose that word, but you're kind of like having fun with it. You're kind of like
I
mocking
am. It's like filter. Like, are you serious? Would you like to be immune? Because
Yeah,
I'll show you
because
how.
I got triggered a little bit when you said that, and I was like, "Oh wait, she's poking fun at it." That's pretty
I
funny.
am. I am. It's a kind of a filter.
Mm-hmm.
I want people who are willing to admit that they want to be super resilient and they want to do what needs to be done to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a 9-week program where it's onto genetics. So we go in stages and we develop and we take we dispense with the things that we have learned that are wrong,
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
are making it so hard. See, these 5 biological laws, they are they're natural and they're easy to understand if you don't
Yeah.
have a bullshit mythology that you've learned in
Oh, they really are. They're so simple. They're so simple. The second one takes a little time to learn, but it's so simple.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I do. And I would also like, I've only made one course so far, but I would like to make courses that
Yeah.
you can just, grab this bite-sized chunk and learn about this disease or this
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
And but so far I only have one, but that's the other thing I would like to be able to say, that I do that too. But so
Would you
far
say there's any programs that you specialize in?
I'm the best at dealing with the psychological stuff for sure.
Okay. Okay.
Especially people with relationship problems. But
When you say relationship, like what kind of relationships are like all over?
I guess I should rephrase that. People who are having personality issues.
Okay. Okay.
I'm really good at taking apart, why does that bother you? Why was it so traumatic to you that they talked to you that way?
Okay.
And it turns out that so much of what's going on in our bodies is coming down to our relationships because, as I've
Yeah.
said, humans
Yeah.
are just the socialist of social animals.
Yep. Yep.
70% of our thoughts, gossip.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I would, I'm like an introverted, independent person, but I can't escape that rule either. So,
Yeah, so I say I specialize in helping people kind of admit what's happening in their mind when it comes to relating with others
okay.
and how they're and I would say I'm pretty good at the constellations.
Okay, you like diving into the constellations. That's
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
cool, cool. Yeah, there's a few times I've had a few Mythos clients, and I kind of get a little frustrated with them, and it's just too much information. Then I go, oh wait, they're Mythos, and it's like, all righty, all right, now I know what to expect.
The other ones that can be really, really hard are the flyers, the flying constellation, because they are up in the clouds with the Lord or with the angels or whatever, and
Oh,
they don't want to
I need
come
to tell
down.
that to one of my practitioners because he gets a little frustrated with that.
Yeah, they're so happy up here. Why would I want to go look at my actual
Yeah,
experience that I had that I didn't like? Yeah,
I have a hard time dealing with depressed people because it's they always, you've never been depressed, you don't understand, and I'm just like, I'm looking right at your conflict.
there's so much
and
anger with depression too.
it's like I almost have to like, like maybe they would understand if I had depression, but it's like they got every excuse in the book to lie low until the conflict blows over.
And the depressed individual is preparing to fight to regain their territory. They're biologically preparing for a fight. And so they're ready to fight with you all
Oh,
the
they
time. Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. They're pacing that the coronary artery is widening in preparation to have a big brawl and
Oh,
get that
yes, yes,
territory
yes,
back.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I always find the the depressed side of things. It's like I love working with manic people. um,
Also
and
happy. Yeah,
yeah,
but those flyers, it's like let's just be positive. Let's just skip right over the bad stuff, and that frustrates me. And maybe because I am sort of a manic type, or
yeah,
I used to be. Yeah, I'm an extrovert for sure. So
cool,
yeah,
cool.
it's
Well, I'll put all your information down in the description so people can reach out to you.
I'll send all
And
my manics to you. You send all your depressives to me. We'll have it. Life will be great.
yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. So
I really enjoyed speaking with you today, Michael. It's been a real pleasure.
yeah, I have a million other questions for you, but maybe for another time. And yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All righty.